Thanks for joining us today. As you know, one of our top goals is making Colorado one of the 10 safest states, improving public safety. We're taking a number of steps in partnership with the legislature, including cracking down on gun trafficking, illegal firearm activity, tougher penalties for stealing rental cars we did last year, and recently statistics show rental car theft is down 25%. Of course, now implementing the will of the people with an initiative to fund law enforcement as well as preventative funding. So there's a number of different things. Obviously here today, we're talking about gun safety. And we're talking about how we can make sure that people who choose to buy guns, first of all, are able to choose the gun they want here in Colorado for sport, for hunting, for home defense, but also that they're properly trained, that if you're going to have especially the more advanced kind of weaponry that you have a gun safety course, including safe storage. We have some safe storage laws that we put in place in prior sessions as well, and many other aspects that can improve the safety if you have the proper instruction. And of course, for people who've already been through our hunter training courses at Colorado Parks and Wildlife, that's a smaller additional course. I think it's 3 or 4 hours. But for folks who haven't had any gun safety training, it's very important that they get that. And this bill will make sure that people will get that education on how to operate the weapon safely, and just as important, how to store them safely as well, and that they have that that knowledge that is so important for those who choose to be gun owners or buy some of the weaponry with detachable magazines. For instance, another law we have is the magazine size law. So it's very important that people are educated in that, know about their legal responsibility as they choose to exercise their Second Amendment rights. Nearly 6 years ago, Senator Sullivan, we stood with you when we strengthened Colorado's extreme risk protection law, another important law that can reduce gun violence and also, of course, reduce suicides and other things when a loved one cares deeply about a son, a daughter, a spouse. There is a legal way while they're dealing with their mental health issues to temporarily remove their weapons, and that's been used in Colorado and no doubt contributed to a safer Colorado. This legislation builds on our commitment to improve public safety, reduce gun violence, uphold our freedom. I want to thank the sponsors, Senator Sullivan, Senator Gonzalez, there you are, Representative Basenecker, and Representative Froelich. So thank you for your leadership. I think we're joined by Representative Clifford. He supported the bill as well. And I want to acknowledge some very special guests. Senator Sullivan's wife, Terry, is with us. Thank you for joining us. Daughter, Megan Sullivan-Jenks, thank you for joining us. And most special, her first bill signing ever, granddaughter, Molly Jenks. So thank you, Molly, for joining us. She is joined by her friend, Teddy, today. I want to thank the many stakeholders who contributed to this bill. This bill makes sure that responsible Coloradans can continue to purchase the gun of their choice in the free state of Colorado, and we can make sure that we have a better educated folks in gun sports and hunting. And we're very excited to work with Colorado Parks and Wildlife and other folks to successfully implement this bill. I had kind of a couple suggestions, and you'll see them, Senator, if we have a signing letter, as we often do on these. And one is one that I think we can act on administratively, but, if it's a bill people want to run in the future, that's fine. And that's to find a way where perhaps for low-income Coloradans or others, there's scholarships for gun safety training. I mean, the more people that have gun safety training, the better. So that's something that I'm going to request that DNR work with CPW to do. And keep in mind, though, that these guns are somewhat expensive anyway that we're talking about here. These are $500, $700, $800 guns. Our goal is to have DNR work with CPW to keep the cost of the training under $200. To be clear, it'll reflect the actual cost. But our goal would be to keep that under $200. I hope they can achieve that. But keep in mind, this is in the context of buying not a inexpensive gun. This is in the context of buying a $600, $700, $800 gun, probably $400 or $500 minimum. and we hope that we can keep that affordable. And I think, again, that's a matter of personal responsibility. If you're going to be purchasing these weapons, it should be your responsibility to make sure that you're educated on how to safely use these weapons. And so I think that's common sense. And again, we want to work to keep that cost under $200. Obviously, we care about folks that have trouble affording.
Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles?
Supporting that, we'd love to find ways to scholarship and provide assistance with that. The second one that we want to work with you on is, first of all, I think this bill is terrific in that people who've already been through all the hunter training don't have to do something that's repetitive, because that makes sense. Gun safety is a part of that, by the way. That's more comprehensive, but it covers gun safety, covers our hunting laws, poaching laws, a lot of things. But there are ways that people get knowledge, might safely operate with weapons in other ways. For instance, somebody might be career military. Now, not everybody's career military, by the way, would operate weapons, but some might. There might be others that were post-certified and retired from law enforcement. So there might be a way to kind of facilitate folks who have that training to not need the entire piece if it's redundant for them. But again, we'd want to make sure that it was a real thing, that they really have that, really got that learning. And again, that's just something that I think we can work on in the future. But overall, I really think this bill will make Colorado and Colorado communities safer and prevent both accidents as well as reduce gun violence. And ultimately, that means saving lives and while protecting our Second Amendment rights, and of course upholding Colorado's proud tradition of sports shooting and hunting, which are popular among many residents of our state and will continue to be with this bill. And I would add that many sports shooters and hunters will also be safer, again, with the knowledge they learn about proper use and storage, and it will in many ways prevent accidents in those areas as well. I would add another one with sports shooting that we've had in our state. You might remember the fire in Basalt. Now it's probably 6-7 years ago, but there have been in our state fires that have started from shooting ranges, and of course we're trying to do the physical improvements around those ranges, and we do want people to shoot on shooting ranges. That's a safe place to shoot, but we have a responsibility around fire safety, and that is also a nexus to gun safety education, to make sure that they are engaging in practices that don't accidentally create a fire. God forbid in a dispersed shooting area, that would be even worse, but also in a shooting range. And there's some simple steps that you can take to safely operate your gun and reduce the risk of starting forest fires. With that, I will turn it over to our sponsor and one of the legislative champions on gun safety and public safety, Senator Sullivan.
I don't normally write stuff down for these, but I just felt today might be the appropriate time. On the bus this morning, I thought about what my day was going to be like. I have a photographer from the Wall Street Journal coming to my office to take my picture for an upcoming story that's a follow-up from a book written by one of their writers about the AR-15 that mentions both Alex and me in it. I have an interview with someone from CBS News following an event in the office of the Governor of Colorado, where I am going to speak in front of a group that genuinely is interested in something I have to say. That's not normal, okay? Then again, my life hasn't been normal since my son Alex was murdered in the Aurora Theater Massacre 664 Fridays ago, along with 11 others. My family made the decision that we would not be silent or indivisible. We would speak out and be present for all those who have been impacted by the public health crisis that is gun violence like we have. That voice and presence has led us here to the General Assembly in our home of Colorado. Since 2019, when I was elected and took office, we have brought, by my count, over 40 bills that relate to gun violence prevention, and over half of them have passed. This year was the first time that the question was ever asked, can we afford it? My answer was a resounding yes. I followed that with the statement that we can't afford not to do all we can to change the continuing impact of gun violence. Senate Bill 003 is just the next step we have undertaken on that effort. We moved quite a distance from where the bill started, and we got to a place where we all felt a little bit of pain, but we are pleased with where it finally landed. With the people in this room and legislators who have the courage to stand up to our opposition, we have been able to add to the safety of each and every Coloradan, especially when it comes to gun violence. It is not easy to take this journey alone, so I'm lucky to have a core group of individuals who have been with me along the way. I want to thank the governor, his staff, and my other sponsors who worked so hard to make this legislation possible. There is more to do, and I will always be at least that one who will stand up and be heard when it comes to taking action against the public health crisis that is gun violence. Thank you. And Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you so much. My name is Julie Gonzalez, and I'm honored to represent North, West, and downtown Denver in the Colorado State Senate. I want to take a moment to just reflect back to the summer. Senator Sullivan and I had a conversation after the legislative session had finished, and we'd had a moment to catch our breath, and we sat down, and we didn't actually talk about policy that much. We talked about movements and how many people had mobilized in such a powerful and effective manner, and yet how young the movement to advance gun safety still is relatively, and how powerful that movement has become in such a short amount of time. Movements take time, and you need both the folks on the outside doing the work, and you need the folks on the inside who can carry the policy. And both aspects, having those conversations with your family, with folks who maybe don't always agree with you 100% of the time, it can be hard, but it matters. And the same is true here on the other side of the glass, as it were. Having those conversations with folks who may not understand or agree with the issue is what matters. It is that conversation that creates the opportunity to find ways forward. And that's why seeing this bill be introduced as a Senate priority policy, to see this bill make it through the Senate when many would have thought it impossible, and to see it now today be signed into law, is not any one person, except probably Senator Sullivan, but it is no one person can do it all. It requires all of us. And so to Ms. Doherty, to Mr. Mauser, to so many of you, to the young folks who have organized in the aftermath of your own lives being impacted by gun violence, that matters. And it's part of why we're able to celebrate this policy being signed into law today. Thank you all. Thank you so much for all of the work that you have done and all of the work that you will continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. I'm Meg Froelich, one of the House sponsors. Plainly, semi-automatic weapons paired with high-capacity magazines result in a much greater loss of innocent lives, which is why we are finally enforcing our decades-old magazine limit, and we know this all too well in Colorado. From Columbine, the Aurora Theater, Boulder King super shooting, Club Q. I want to thank the students of the lockdown generation who understand the trauma that mass shootings inflict. It should not be a requirement that you have personally experienced a shooting, although 1 in 15 Coloradans have, to know that kindergartners practicing active shooter drills is profoundly sad, and it is generational trauma. The kindergartners that are now teens, with their whole school lives spent in the shadow of gun violence. I want to thank the survivors and the moms who have shown up over and over again. And I want to thank my colleagues who have been with us in this effort through long days and nights, through personal attacks, toxic, threatening phone calls, and emails. And I want to thank our staff, who are actually the ones on the front lines who receive all of those. And thank you to our bill sponsors, our Senadora, the voice of her community, our former pastor and gun owner, who's just a voice of reason, and of course, Senator Sullivan, the change maker, the tenacious, righteous voice we needed. And it is not to be underestimated the power that comes from taking a tragedy, the worst day in your family's lives, and standing to say, no one should bury a loved one, not one more victim of senseless, preventable, murderous acts.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andy Basenecker, State Representative from House District 53. I have the honor of representing Fort Collins at the state legislature, or at least in the House. My colleague mentioned it, but I wanted to just share it again, that 1 in 15 people in our country statistic. That means that 7% of the population in the United States has been present at the scene of a mass shooting in our country. It's 1 in 15 people in our country that have been subjected to the violence, the loss, and the grief that is unimaginable and yet all too real for too many people in our society today. The ripple effects of that physical and psychological trauma, the fear of what could and has happened, are real. School children, teachers, all training for a moment that we pray never comes in our community. I'm a former public school teacher, taught in a Title I school for a number of years. I also have 3 children in our public schools, and I know I'm not alone, regardless of the letter behind your name, when I say that I worry every day that I'm privileged to drop off my kids at school. That is a shared fear and a shared trauma in our communities when we think about the impacts of gun violence. I think Senate Bill 3 represents a meaningful step forward that we as Coloradans can take, and we know that we are a state that must continue to lead on this issue of gun violence prevention, and thanks to the work of my colleagues, we have done that so well and for so long. This bill recognizes our need to address the state's existing high-capacity magazine ban by ensuring that individuals seeking to purchase a semi-automatic military-style weapon with detachable magazines simply receive a permit and the proper safety training to do so. The efficacy of that safety training and permit to purchase programs is well documented in research and in practice across the United States. It is my belief as a firearm owner myself that this bill represents a monumental step forward in gun violence prevention work in a way that the courts have affirmed time and time again is consistent with the Second Amendment. I want to just close with a word of thanks. A thank you to Senator Sullivan. A thank you to Senator Gonzalez. A thank you to Representative Froelich for inviting me on this journey with you. Thank you to the volunteers who have showed up to testify time and time again across both chambers, to the experts who helped answer important questions, to Colorado State Patrol who work to keep the people in this place safe every single day, to the nonpartisan staff that you don't see, but that work through tireless committee hearings to make sure every voice is heard on this issue, even when those voices disagree with what we're trying to do here. That is important. I want to say thank you to the survivors, to the students, to the friends and families who live with the scars and loss all too common in our society. We see you, we hear you, we are grateful for how you continue to use your immeasurable losses in a way that we know will save someone else from that same grief and suffering. Thank you for turning that grief into action to make Colorado safer. We appreciate you.
Keep going. Yep, I'll wait. Join us here for the signing. You ready? Okay, here we go. It's officially the law of Colorado. Congratulations.